Hello, everyone. This is the first of a new type of Vidped in which I will talk to people who have already done Vidpeds with me and are now abroad. And the focus is on their decision to go abroad to study more. And the target is the young people in India who are thinking about going abroad. And so I want to help them understand how the people who are already abroad made their decisions. I'd also love to get people who thought about going abroad but then decided not to go and hear from them. But right now, I don't have a list. So if you're one of them who thought about going abroad but decided not to go abroad, I'd love to have you back too. So to inaugurate the series, I hope we have with us Ikya. She is in Paris and she has kindly agreed to be the guinea pig and to do it the first time. Uh, I thank her for the willingness to do it. And let's get on with it. So, Ikea, we've already shared the questions with you, and let's get on with it. So, the first question really is, why did you decide to go abroad? What were the pros and cons for you? It's not a formal interview, let's just chit chat.
Yeah. Just to point out, my name is Aikya.
Ikea,
I
okay.
still need to. Yeah.
Ikea,
So
okay.
yeah. So
You must know that I'm getting too old.
no, it's not about you. It
No,
happens
I
every
mean, look, 20
every
years, 20 years ago, I never forgot anything, anything.
time.
Okay, I never took notes anywhere and I never forgot anything. But one day I got a root shock about 15 years ago. I went to a place where I parked my car and it wasn't there. I said, what? Who stole my car? And then what happened was actually I parked on the next street. So
Okay.
15 years ago, I got my first warning that look, you can no longer be relied upon to remember. Because before that, I never forgot a thing. Now age has caught up and one forgets names, pronunciations, not only that, other things. So it's just age. And sorry to say that, IKEA, but yes, I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Right.
honestly, I don't think I'm that old yet, and I forget everything all the damn time. So I
But
don't
for me, I never forgot a thing.
I mean, I'm worried. I mean, I'm not even 25 and I forget everything. I'm worried how I'm gonna be at like, I don't know, 60 or 70. But anyway.
Okay, anyway, IKEA, let's do it. Okay, so the question is why did you go abroad and what were your pros and cons?
Yeah, so I think I can just for people who don't know me yet, I think I can just start as to where I studied in the first place and then why I chose to go there to pursue my master's. So I'm I come from Hyderabad. I had done my higher education in Delhi University for my bachelor's, and it was I think about the COVID time when it was I never really during my bachelor's thought that okay I wanted to go abroad, but well I went to St. Stephen's and then a lot of people around me at that point of time I saw them taking this next step wherein they were applying abroad, they were going to the best of institutions across the world, and I think that was kind of like this germination of this idea that okay probably this is something I might want to do, but I never really took it very seriously or acted on it per se. But then, COVID hit, and I think I was at home at that particular point of time, and that's when I started to really reflect not just on my academic sort of trajectory, also, although that was also a very important part, but also really personally in terms of my life. I just felt like it was one of those experiences that I wanted to have. That of going abroad, that of studying in a Western country, that of experiencing the education system here,
Mhm.
because there were a lot of, I think, even though I had not been exposed to the Western education system that as yet, I had a lot of I always felt quite disappointed, I think, being in the Indian education system. Yeah, so that was when I started to kind of take it more seriously. I had more time because I was at home. I could sometimes talk to people who went abroad, think if this was an option for me. So for me, I think, why did I choose to study abroad? For me, largely, I think it was the experience more than the academic side of it. I think that was a secondary priority for me. But going on from that, and I just felt like it was the right thing for me to do at that point of time. So 2021 was the time that I started to seriously look in. 2022 is when August was when I finally moved to Paris. So around 2021 and first half of 2022, it was like 1.5 year process for me when I decided to when I actually, let's say, landed in Paris here. So yeah, and
Any cons at that time? I mean, did you have any cons that, look, this is a problem or this is a risk? Any fears or negative thinking? Or it was all just, look, I want to do this, I will do it if it works.
I think I just took it like literally. It was a 1 year course for me. I took it 1 year at a time. I had absolutely no clue that what I would feel like doing once I actually came here. I didn't think I'd go on to
Yeah,
continue to stay,
yeah.
or I would leave. I would stay. I had again. I'm not suggesting others do this. It's probably not the most strategic thing to do, but
Mm,
I don't think I had a clear-cut plan or vision of my
mm,
future such.
mm.
Having said that, I also want to point out that the only cons that I can think of is really just the financial aspect of it, that it is extremely expensive to. I went to a very elite private business school here, which is very, very expensive. Living in Paris is super expensive. It is not easy to find a job here. You do have linguistic barriers. You are exposed to a whole different culture. So I came from that position of privilege wherein I had certain economic safety nets, as well as I had gotten a very good scholarship from the French government. So the finances side of it looked pretty okay for me to take this kind of risk where I could be like, okay, I am going to do this for 1 year. And if nothing works out after that, then so be it. I'll figure out my life then. I came in with that kind of expectation and that kind of risk. And I could afford to take that risk. But then, of course, things did work out pretty well for me in the end, and that's a whole different story.
Okay,
Yeah.
so where all did you apply? I mean, by not institution, but countries, did you consider several countries or this was it?
No, I just applied to one university and I got it
And so how
again.
did you choose it?
Okay, so I when I had thought of okay applying abroad and that I wanted to go abroad, I had really list of initially I had a list of like 15 universities, largely from the UK and the Europe. Firstly, it was the geographical thing for me, right?
Yeah.
I kind of knew that I did not want to go to the US. I wasn't I didn't, for some reason, I still don't have a very good opinion about US culturally in general, although it has an excellent universities and academic institutions. But it just didn't appeal to me. It just didn't feel like a country I wanted to stay in the long term, or like anyway. So I thought it's better to that I stick to, and also because US is like really, really expensive, right? It's 3 to 4 times the cost of what it is when compared to UK or Europe. So I was focusing on UK, Europe, and then I was focusing. Then I started to look into the topmost universities, basically. I had a somewhat of an idea that I either wanted to go into, let's say, public policy or sustainable development, or some sort of a development studies sort of a course. But it was still like pretty broad idea that I had of what kind of course that I wanted to pursue. Then I tried to look at what are the I think one very important factor for me was that I wanted to do it from a really, really good university, just in
Yeah.
terms of the brand name.
Yeah.
in terms of the brand name, because I know that if I go to a university which has a good brand name, even if I were to choose to go back to India after that, it would still hold a lot of value. First reason. Second reason, I just feel
Yeah.
like pursuing your masters or going abroad is pretty much like a once in a lifetime thing. You're
Yeah.
not going to do multiple masters. It's a huge emotional, psychological, financial investment. And if I do it once, I just wanted to do it from a really, really good place.
Yeah.
So amongst the UK, the kind of colleges, universities that I was looking into were like Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, Imperial, and in France, I had looked into HEC, which is the university I ended up going to, but also like Sciences Po.
Yeah.
These broadly the
Yeah.
kind of universities I was considering, and then
Mm.
I kind of going deeply into, do I want to go into academia? I don't think I did not want to go on to pursue a PhD. I did not
Yeah.
want a research heavy course.
Mm.
So, and I felt like, let's say Oxford, the course at Oxford was slightly more embedded in research. It was kind of like the particular course that I was considering was more for people, either like their public policy course was for people who had more experience, and there was another course that I was looking into which I was really interested in around sustainability or something. But it was more catered to people who would go on to want a research career. But then, HEC being a business school, it was more hands-on, it was more pragmatic. Again, had a big brand name in France, but also in Europe. It again, they really care about placements because that is something that business schools thrive on. So I thought that is something I'll get a lot of support for. So I just put all my eggs in one basket and thought, okay, let me go for this. If it doesn't, and also to keep in mind that I applied to HEC in October of 2021 itself. So I thought,
Yeah.
just in case something doesn't work out, I can probably still apply to the other universities in the January deadline, and we'll see how it goes. So
Mm.
that was my way of going about it.
Okay. Wonderful. So you applied and you got in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now looking back, how does it feel? Was it the right decision or any second doubts, or how do you feel about it?
I think when I first came in, there were so it's been 2.5 years now since I first came to Paris. I think the first 1 year I doubted my decision a lot, like a lot. When I first came to university, I just felt it very isolating. I found it very difficult to kind of cope socially, not so much academically. I still think that I was able to, even though it was a very different curriculum, the debates here are more Europe centric, more US centric. You don't really, the kind of skills or the kind of knowledge that you get in India is not in and of itself very useful here. And also because Indian education system, it gives you a lot of, it teaches you how to sit for 5 hours and rote learn something, but it doesn't really give you the skills to go and participate in the world. It doesn't give you the communication skills. It doesn't give you the critical thinking skills. So
Yeah.
I think that was something, or in terms of networking, or in terms of reaching out to people, or in terms, so these are the ones I felt like I was very much starting off from a scratch. And also because I had taken like a 1 year course, I don't feel like I had a lot of buffer to just adjust myself to a wholly different system, and also cultural context. And when you come here, you also have a lot of bureaucratic, a lot of time just goes away in administrative and bureaucratic things which we don't even think of before coming here, right? So at that point, I was like, oh my God, why on earth did I actually sign up for it? Sign up for all of this. But now, in retrospect, I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, now when I
Yeah.
look back at all of that, I just feel like no matter what happens now in the future, no matter what I decide, where I decide to stay, I do think that these 2.5 years, they've given me those kind of learnings which will go on to benefit me for a
Mm.
very, very, very long time.
Mm.
And no one can take this away from me, right? It's
No.
always going to stay with me no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things like before coming here, I feel like I was so dependent. I was so, I think I was just so scared to talk to anyone, to go out, to ask for something, to ask for help. I was like hyper independent when I came here. I mean, I didn't want to ask for help for anyone, but you realize that's not really how it works. And so I just think now it was just one of those huge leaps I've taken in my life, which makes me feel like, okay, if I can do this, I can do anything. So it's a journey from which I today, and I know I will go on to draw a lot of strength and resilience from. So no, I don't think I will regret
No, so it's
having.
working for you.
Yeah, yeah, it
It's
is.
working for you.
Even
But
though
yeah,
there are ups and downs, when I look at it at a more, when I zoom out and look at it, I'm very glad I took this step. And I'm
okay.
very glad I kept through even when it was difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. I hate to ask this, but does it make any difference that you're a woman?
In what sense?
I don't know. I'm asking in any sense.
Does it make a difference that I'm
To
a woman
you or
here?
to how you adjust or being, is it a different experience for a man or a woman to go abroad, do you think, or it's the same, or
No,
you
of
don't
course.
know?
No, I of course I don't think it's the it's the same experience, you know. I do think that a lot of times when women from India, but of course India is such a diverse country, right? You can't generalize. My experience as a woman here can't be compared to anyone else's. I do come from just because I'm a woman, I can't be automatically put into a certain kind of category. I
Yeah.
do come from so much of caste and class privilege and religious privilege, and that's something to be kept in mind, and that's something that I have in India. But at the same time, I do think that there are certain expectations of what a woman is supposed to be like in the society, right? y- I, I am privileged in some sense, but I am also vulnerable in public spaces in some sense when I am in India. There are also certain societal expectations of me, of what I'm supposed to achieve by which age, whether that is in terms of getting married, or whether that is in terms of having kids, or whether that is in how much time and effort I should give into my professional life vis-a-vis my as opposed to my personal life. And these are, and I'm not saying these pressures aren't on men, but they are more so on women.
Okay.
And I do think that, for me, it's when people ask me why do you like living in Paris? I tell them it's such a blessing that I can go out on the road whenever I like. And not to say that everything is safe here, of course not. Of course, I've faced some untoward incidents here as well. But on the whole, I like the fact that I'm not always looking over my back. I like the fact that I have public transport here, which makes it safer for me to access a lot of public spaces which are kept from me in India, which are
Mm.
not as easily accessible for me in India. I do like the fact that I can wear what I want to wear without people looking at me in as if I'm some sort of yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
so these and all of these experiences are because of my identity as a woman. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, good. I mean, thank you so much because I usually don't ask questions about men and women.
I think it is
But
so
I think
important.
that's when you are going abroad and you've been abroad, it does matter. And let's be honest about it and let's not hide it. So I thought I'll ask you.
Abroad or not, Subodh, I think that no matter, even if I were in India, even if I'm in France, even if I were to go anywhere else, your identity, your background, your family dynamics, these are not things you can transcend. They follow you and they follow you everywhere. So, and that's important to keep in mind, and that's important to also acknowledge that your experiences, your personal lived experiences are shaped by all of these different factors.
Yeah, true, absolutely. I always say I'm just a cog in a big wheel. Who am I? I'm nobody but a cog in a giant wheel. Where and who's driving that wheel, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have
And
some wiggle room here and there, but the rest of it is a giant wheel. Uh,
yeah.
all right, good. So
And
that's a
and and just one last point,
yeah,
if I
sure.
may,
Yeah,
if I might add, so
yeah,
because very much relating to all of this, even now, when a lot of times when people ask me, do I want to go back to India? When do I want to go back to India? And whenever they ask me questions like this, also, this is what I tell them, that everyone has certain values or certain something that they want to live by, something which is very, very important to them. For some people, that could be like, okay, where can I earn more money? For some others, it can be like, okay, I want to stay closer to your family. And all of these are very, 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 very important considerations, right? None of them is, it just depends on the person. None of them is right or wrong. And for me, this is something that I say, that a lot of times I feel like the trade-off really, of course, I have my family, but it's also like it also feels like my freedom is the currency that I have to pay when I'm in India in many ways, which I get in way I won't be able to be independent in the way that I am here.
yeah,
So that's so it doesn't just shape your identity, doesn't just shape the decisions you've taken in the past, but when you think of your future life, it's a very important factor based on which you take your professional decisions as well. These are not silos. Our professional life and personal life aren't siloed. They are
yeah,
all one thing informs the other.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Finally, do you have any tips for younger people?
Um, I just say start early. You don't sometimes even consider how many things you have to keep juggling in terms of statement of purposes, recommendation letter, standardized tests, GMAT, GRE, IELTS, TOEFL, language tests, etc. So all universities have different deadlines, different requirements, different scholarship applications, and these are some you get all the information that you need on the university website, but the onus is on you to kind of go and do your own research. And that's
Yeah,
not something I believe even ChatGPT can do for you.
yeah,
You need to put in some
mm,
effort and planning to make sure that you meet the deadlines.
mm,
And I would say, know what you want to get out of this experience. And
mm,
otherwise, I'm sorry to say this, but otherwise, you'll be very disappointed if you just keep thinking that,
mm,
look, I'll figure it out then. I'll figure, and sure, I thought that, but I knew that I was ready for the worst. I was ready to come here, not have a plan, and I was willing to take that risk. But even if you take the risk, know what is the alternative, right? So know what you want to get out of this experience. And then I'll just say that if it works out well, congratulations. If it does not work out, also, it just depends on so many factors. It is never really a reflection of your abilities. I think whenever we get a rejection, we're like, oh no, maybe my SOP wasn't good, maybe this wasn't good. But it depends on so many factors which are not under your control. So just give it your best shot. And
mm.
if you do also do make it, congrats, but know that you're going to have to keep working hard. Things
Yeah,
are not going to be a smooth road for you just because you get into any university, even if it is the best in the world.
yeah,
The process of working hard always is going to continue. So I would say just learn to embrace that process and that journey in itself, rather than only thinking of it as a destination and being outcome oriented. Last final thoughts, I'd just say that everyone's journey is their own. We've just been talking about how one's personal life and identity kind of impacts this, and that's something I want to reiterate, that how different people cope to circumstances differs a lot. So it's very important to take insights from others, but know that no matter how much you read, how many people you talk to, your journey will still, your experiences also will still be uniquely yours. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, fine, good. It's very helpful, Ikea. It's very, very good, very, very helpful. You've been so clear about so many things, and I think it'll be very valuable if I get a few more people who talk about these things to younger people who are grappling with this idea. Okay, any final word?
Uh, s- just stay confident, believe in yourself. Don't hesitate to ask people for help. Know why you want to do something. Know what. Don't do it for the world. I think first and foremost, don't do it to prove something. Don't do it for another achievement. As important as those things are, I'm not downplaying them, but also know where your motivations lie and why really is it that you want to do. And trust me, when even when you write, attend interviews, write statement of purposes, it's going to show, when you're really authentic, when you're really reflective about all of these things. So that's all.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Is Paris as good a city as it is supposed to be? Food, culture, entertainment, whatever. Is it as good as people say it is for you?
I don't know what people say, but for me, I really, really love it. Yes,
Okay.
I think not initially, but I think I have grown to love the city a lot.
Hmm.
I
And what
have
about it?
it's grown
What
on me.
about
Yeah.
it is the best for you? What the two or three great things that you have enjoyed?
Oh, well, it just feels like a place with so many possibilities, so many opportunities. It just feels like there's a place here for everyone, like no matter where you come from.
Hmm.
And it's a place which makes you work hard to like it. Where initially when you come, you'll be like, oh no, no one's even speaking English. People are rude, people are this, people are that. And it's actually not welcoming. I keep hearing this and I agree with it. It's not welcoming. People don't really smile at you, or, some of those stereotypes are really a little bit true. But you need to it's still and maybe why I'm saying this is because I have built a relationship with it over time, and now it's the familiarity which has warmed up to me. And I don't know what the whole world thinks or what people say about Paris or whatever it is, but I think it's a city that through which I have grown a lot, and it's one which I really, really love.
But people talk about the food and so on. So is the food really good for you? Or
Oh, the desserts are absolutely brilliant. I don't, their savory food is not good. I think Indian food is a million times better, but all the desserts and the pastries, they are probably really, really the best in the world.
but aren't they from Austria, all those things?
Austria?
Yeah, Vienna,
I think
No, they're
I
they're
think
they're they're local Paris, right? Or for you? Because I thought the Austrian desserts dominate. No,
no,
no.
no. I think they're French as far as I know, and they're
Okay.
they're really amazing. Yeah.
All
But
right.
not their savory food, not their savory food.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Great. All right. Thank you, Ikea. Is there anything that you want to ask me in public?
Not really, actually.
Okay.
No,
Fine. Good.
okay. I do have a question.
Yeah.
What, after talking to 800 people, 800 plus people, what are the, I don't know, what has been your learning from this journey that you have taken up, this humongous project that you have
Well,
had?
the basic conclusion is that my hunch was right.
Mm,
The hunch on which I started this channel was right. That young people in India, many of them are bloody good.
mm,
Okay. And the reason they are good is not because of what they are taught.
mm,
It's because in Delhi they have now, DU, they have societies and
mm,
internships. But even where they don't have societies and internships, the internet is a great help to people. And they have taken full advantage of those technologies
Right,
to learn so much that
right.
the classroom education is now just one of the things that you do when you are young.
Hmm.
Right? And my hunch was that, look, people have done it and they're very good. And the hunch was right.
Yeah,
What I hear young people doing is astounding.
yeah.
Okay. They are functioning better than anybody else, not because they are better than anybody else, but because they have absorbed things from the available technologies. So that is, I think, is the first and firm conclusion. Okay. And that number two, many of them are really interested in giving back. Now, that's a biased sample that's come to me.
Of
I don't
course,
know
yeah.
why I have a biased sample, but I think it's a biased sample.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
that many of them are very keen to do something for their country.
hmm.
There's a sense of the words that you used, privilege, and of
Hmm.
giving back. Okay. So I hear it again and again because, I don't ask questions,
Hmm.
but I hear it. People say it themselves. So
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, they've picked up these words to describe themselves that, look, I have privilege, I have this, and I need to give back. And I think the society has not figured out how to tap this energy
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
and this interest and enthusiasm, which may fade over time, but right now they do have it, and it has not been tapped. It's a big mistake that we are making, that we are not tapping the enthusiasm and energy in a systematic way. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm trying to do some of it, but it is so. These are the two positive things, and the third thing is that there's, as you mentioned, this complete lack of critical thinking in college education.
Hmm, hmm,
And there's no one really stepping up to meet this challenge.
hmm, hmm.
That, look, I'm a nonprofit, I can help you with critical challenge, because the whole culture is so Marx oriented,
Hmm, hmm.
anything or CV oriented. So you
Right,
become Marx oriented and CV oriented.
right,
Right? So
right.
either you do the internships to build your CV, because
Hmm,
everybody's doing it. So there's a competition to build your CV, or
hmm.
you study hard to get good marks. And
Yeah,
any third thing is kind of lost.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll have fun with different. So I would say this is sort of the three big things
Hmm,
that I have observed. That there are, of course, and the fourth thing is that the young women do have support from their families. They're not
hmm.
suffering from patriarchy in this group. And we know where they are suffering from patriarchy, but not in this group.
I
Most of
would like to a little bit challenge you on that, but
Go ahead and challenge, because I got a challenge from somebody else, but go ahead and challenge.
oh, I don't.
I'm not
Yeah,
saying there isn't elements of patriarchy, but it is
yeah.
not holding them back so much as the others. So it's a nuanced point. There's patriarchy everywhere. But
Hmm.
how far is it not supportive? I think there's a big difference between this group and, say, the FEA group, which you and I both know.
Yeah, and Shubodh, one thing, and of course, the point that you're making is also very nuanced, but and patriarchy is also, of course, not a binary, right? It's not
Yeah.
like, okay,
No,
yes,
no, it's degrees. It's degrees.
exactly. That's what you have also been saying, and I'm not also dismissing the fact that we have come a long way. Of course not. Of course we have come a long way. Even in my own family, when you look at the intergenerationally, just in two generations, like what I've been able to do today is literally extraordinary, given that even both my parents, they come from very agricultural households in rural India. They, even my grandparents aren't literate, for instance. So even just my parents were the first generation to move from the village to the city. But then for them, coming from there to even Hyderabad was such a huge thing. And now me going from Hyderabad to Delhi, or going from Delhi to Paris, these are all, it's a lot of intergenerational social mobility, and it's a lot, and it's, you can trace that through the personal and the professional trajectories of women. But at the same time, I do know that for me, as well as for many of my female friends, you do have this pressure to, and my parents are incredibly supportive, but you also do have that pressure to perform above and beyond perhaps what your male counterpart would, to be
Yeah,
able to move out of your house. I don't know. For my parents, when I was 17, for them to let go of me, to allow them, for me to go to Hyderabad, to Delhi, it was a huge thing for them. But I also know that they were willing to take that risk and that step and go against probably what a lot of my relatives advised them, because I had gotten into an institution like St. Stephen's.
yeah, I
But I
agree with you.
had to, like, perform. Or
Yeah,
even now, right? Or even now, they are willing to finance my studies. And of course, they're being incredibly supportive. But also, not to forget the fact that I also had to get into a institution like HEC, which is extremely selective. I don't know if I would, and it's just that going that extra step and having that pressure to be on the top of the top, because also I know
yeah.
that this is the only way for me to have access to this lifestyle.
Yeah, that's what the women in US also say, that we have to perform 50% better to get to the same place.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and of course it is amazing, because okay, it gives me a work ethic, it gives me, makes me work hard, all of that, yes, but it also comes, it also takes a toll, because you are also doing it, or because of, again, being a
yeah.
woman.
So
It's
it's a pressure.
always coming, it's not always coming from a place of love and joy and loving your work.
I
It's
understand.
coming, yeah.
I agree with that completely, that you have to do better than the boys to get ahead to the same place, because without that, doing much better, nobody would support you.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. No, I'm just saying that what I have observed is that, I work with FEA like you do, and I see the contrast.
Yeah. Yeah.
The contrast is what I'm pointing out. The young women who are hardworking, motivated, but who didn't get a good education, because they are not achieving the same top colleges and so on. So for them, it's much harder.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they get into the top places, then the society sort of forgives that
Yeah,
trespass.
exactly. Exactly.
Society
Exactly.
sort of forgives.
Yeah.
Okay, if at all you are not doing this, at least you are in the top place there, so it's okay. So
Yeah.
that's kind of,
Yeah, and also that both you and I, we are also talking to somewhat women in urban India, right?
yes, I am
It
only talking to.
Yeah, exactly. But I just feel like I genuinely don't know what the situation is like for women in more remote places, or in more, like, very caste minority or religious minority groups, and maybe not so accessible parts
No,
of
I've
India.
done FEA sessions in rural India,
Yeah,
in Hindi, in the northern space, and it
yeah,
is very different.
yeah, yeah.
It's very different. Absolutely, there's, like you don't have a mixed class also.
Hmm,
You have
hmm,
separate for women and men.
hmm,
So it is completely different. We know, I know that having talked to them. Anyway, this is sort of my broad
yeah.
view of it's that, look, there is a lot of young talent in India,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
and they are in every field. There are young engineers who talk so confidently. There are young people who want to be in business and finance and startups and this and that. So there's a lot going on,
Hmm,
and that's the hopeful part.
hmm. Yeah.
That's the hopeful part,
Yes.
that there's a lot going on, and it is going on in spite of the state not really doing it.
Yeah.
State
Yeah.
is not responsible for all of this. It's really the same colleges. In fact, the class sizes are double of what they were in our time. So
Hmm.
it's really not the colleges doing it. It's really not the government doing it directly, not through the educational system, but
Yeah.
and the pandemic actually changed everything, because the whole world became video savvy and interconnected. And
Hmm,
so
hmm, hmm.
people began to get much more knowledge and much more interest in connection. You
Hmm.
could write a cold email anywhere in the world, and
Yeah.
people would answer because they were sitting at home doing nothing. So
Exactly.
good. So all right. Any last thoughts from you? I talk too much, so I'll let me
No,
stop.
no, I've also spoken a lot.
All right. Let's end it here today. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for being the first to do this. And I think it'll kind of set a template. I have several others signed up. And I think it'll be very helpful to younger people to see what happens, to speak to someone, instead of going to a place where they give you advice. These are the universities you apply to and all, but they don't have the first-hand experience. Right.
Yeah.
So let's make it real. All right. Thank you so much, Ikea. And this time I'll say your name correctly. All right. Thank you so much. Let's end it here. Stay offline. We'll talk a bit.